Hello and welcome to the Toy Talks podcast, but this is going to be a very different episode. Those of you who are frequent listeners, you know we usually start the podcast with an opening quote, and it's usually a quote either that has inspired me or that has inspired the themes that I'll be covering in the podcast. This episode has no quote. Today is Friday the 17th of March 2023. And if I'm releasing this podcast episode, it means that I've given birth. Toya, what are you talking about? What? It means I've given birth. For the last 9 months, I've been growing a whole child. And I have been pregnant in private. And I've been moving in silence. And that's very consistent with who I am. I move in silence. I share what I'm comfortable with sharing. And what I'm not, I don't. And that, for me, has always been the way I live my life. A lot of people who have followed me for a really long time will note that whilst, yes, I am on social media, I'm not from that social media era. We've learned to adapt to social media, but I didn't grow with it. So it's not an intrinsic part of who I am. So I always find social media quite strange. It doesn't feel... It doesn't always feel like a natural place, but then once I access social media, it definitely feels very natural. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, well, Toya, how has this come about? Like, what's going on? Like, talk to us. Well, nothing really to say. 4 days before my traditional wedding blessing, I found out I was pregnant. And be careful what you ask the ancestors for. One of my dreams has always been that I thought it was so beautiful and so spiritually beautiful to walk down the aisle pregnant. That's exactly what happened. It was like I spoke to the ancestors and they were like, you and your big mouth, okay then. And I charted a lot of my pregnancy through my vlogs. So you will note that I have a YouTube channel called At Home with Toya, and it literally is At Home with Toya because my life and where I feel safe is at home in my safe space, and that's why I changed the name. But I knew that I wanted to vlog the reality of what being an older working career mum is. Like, what does that actually look like? Now let's double back a little bit. I got married at the age of, I think I was 36. I'm 38 now, so I must have been about 36 or 37. Yeah, I don't think I was 35 at all. No, 36, 37, I got married. And in society standards and definitely culturally, that's actually marrying quite late. And I have said this before, but I'm going to say it in this episode for the avoidance of doubt. It's probably the best thing I ever did. Because not only do I feel like a fully lived life and got a lot of things out of my system, but I felt from a maturity perspective, if I had married any earlier, I would be divorced twice, 3 times. I wasn't emotionally developed to be married older than what I was. Number one, I had so much trauma from my relationship with my mum, or lack thereof, trauma from my sibling relationship, family traumas, all this stuff that I didn't actually start working on until my 30s, because for me, I didn't understand that I could access therapy. And actually, therapy, as I have always said, has saved my life. So getting married later than what society would deem as acceptable and culturally acceptable has got to be one of the best things ever. Bearing in mind that I definitely received a lot of, shaming. Oh, you're not married. Oh, look, no one wants you. You're left on the shelf. You're going to expire. All of this stuff, yeah. And in my 20s, especially my later 20s, it really started to weigh on me because I thought maybe I am doing something wrong. But at the same time, I am enjoying my life, albeit things are difficult. I'm not thinking about marriage right now. I just wasn't thinking about it. And I think part of it is because I wasn't maturely developed enough to consider that. I was still trying to evade poverty and understand how to sustain myself. I was grieving the loss of my father. I'm also grieving relationships as a result of the loss of my father. I'm also grieving the person that was before the loss of my father. And then I'm also trying to navigate workspaces that basically tell me that my blackness is offensive and my blackness is an issue. I'm an issue. I'm a woman. I'm black. That is a lot to have to process and deal with. And then on top of that, your culture and society as a whole is basically saying, oh, you're leaving it too late, tick, 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 tick. It's a lot. I may be doing this episode in 2 parts, to be fair, because there's a lot of things that I know that I need to cover as part of this episode, especially as the direction of this podcast is going to start expanding, not changing, expanding. So I got pregnant at the age of 37. I was 37 years old, and I know this because my wedding blessing was in August 2022. And I'm going to be really, really honest, as I always am, but brutally, to the point where, for a long time I didn't want children. I think a lot of that has to do with not feeling like I had, like people say, I've always wanted to be a parent. I haven't always wanted to be a parent. I didn't have that natural maternal instinct. I found children quite irritating, to be honest. To be fair, children are quite irritating, let's really be honest, especially if they're not your own. But there are limits, if I love the person, I typically love their child. But I just did not have that maternal bone in my body to actually feel like I could be a mother. I didn't see myself as a mother. I saw the beauty in being able to wake up in the morning and decide I want to travel to New York in a few months and just book my holiday. I saw children as tie me down when I was always looking for freedom. I'm very much a free spirit. I'm very spiritual. I'm a Libran. Therefore, I'm always looking for balance. Yeah. Now, a few months before I got pregnant, something that was really important to me is to understand my internal health. I'd never been taught anything about, internal health. In fact, I don't think my parents really sat me down and really explained to me the need to maintain health and what being healthy was from an access to medicine or medical professionals perspective. And I don't blame them. I think my parents, as many of our parents, they come to this country to survive, Access to medical care is there, so you go when you're really, really sick. That was how I was raised. It wasn't until I think my dad became unwell that I realised how serious health was. So there are things that I've spoken about, like life insurance and things like that, and it's come from the trauma of, watching my dad become ill, and life insurance and things like that wasn't at the forefront of his mind. And remember, our parents are from a generation of work till you die. Life insurance and stuff like that are all relatively new concepts. And the thing is, with relatively new concepts, if they don't understand it and it means I have to spend money on it, the likelihood is they won't. And it's only until something happens that we, the children, understand the benefits of things like life insurance, health insurance, and just general health maintenance. So if you follow me on social media, I would have told you guys that to be fair, on Instagram, every month you guys know when I'm on my period, because my periods since the age of 12 have been laced with trauma. It's traumatic for me. I literally feel like I am dying. How I was ever travelling on public transport during my period to get to work, I really, really, I don't know. I really don't know. Sorry, just saw a fly outside my window. Yeah, I don't know how I was doing it. But as women, we just, excuse me, I'm burping all the time. We just do. Excuse me. We just do. And I have been diagnosed with endometriosis, which was a misdiagnosis, and then PCOS. And it took, from the period in which I started investigating, or having investigations done, to when I was actually diagnosed conclusively, I would say it took about 5 years. And part of that 5 years is also me being disillusioned with the healthcare, because I was like, you're telling me you think, but all these thinking is then not progressing into managing what it is you think. You understand? So it's like they're just telling me, but then I'm not getting any follow-up on that. I'm having to chase everything. Bearing in mind, I only very recently became financially able to now start looking at private healthcare and stuff. So I started the journey outside of private healthcare, but then progressed into private healthcare, but then still relying on normal healthcare because I'd already started the process. And then understanding what, like, I could make complaints and stuff like that to push through the process to actually get a conclusive decision. So I found out that I had fibroids. I think initially it was 3, and then it was 4 fibroids. And it explained the painful periods, it explained the mood swings, excessive hair, long periods. So my periods would last anything between 7 to 10 days, heavy periods, you name it. Like, it was really bad. So Kay and I had always said, and Kay was very much a part of that journey, because he very much had to be the one that took care of me when I was really ill. And then just before the lockdown and COVID and everything, before everything was shut down, I managed to get a conclusive decision. And it was only one of my friends that said to me, even though they're malignant, I still have to check them at least every year to see if they've got any additional ones, or, you know, make sure that, you know, they haven't grown or nothing sinister has come of them. So really understanding how to manage my PCOS and manage the PCOS and the fibroids came from friends and access to, like, information. Now, just before I got pregnant, Kay and I have always said that if we didn't have kids, we'd be okay. And I think part of that is, number one, we're really happy with our lives. Number two, we understood the magnitude of the responsibility of having children. Number three, I was still on the fence about having children, albeit I was a bit more entertaining of the idea. Yeah? And then I started to think about, you know, what else is it in my life that I want to achieve or I want to do? And there's so much stuff that I still want to achieve, but, you know, am I getting out of life what I want? Like, what does real happiness look like to me? And for me, real happiness is just having the simple things. And I had those things. But in terms of plans and things like that, I knew that there was so much more stuff I wanted to do, albeit just not at the same passion, if that makes sense. So, for example, I used to think that work was my life. I used to love my job. And then I soon realised I don't actually love my job, you know. I'm just really good at what I do. Loving my job, I think, it takes it too far. And I think I fell out of love with my job when the reality of the world of work and navigating as a black woman became ever so real and became almost trauma-ridden as well. Because a lot of what we share here on the podcast comes from a space of trauma. I'm having to revisit trauma from the age of 15 right up until my current age now, which is 38. That's a lot of work to do and a lot of healing to do and a lot of lessons to learn in the process of sharing, guiding, teaching and educating, as well as the dilemmas I get through that I, as an empath, internalise as well. So I think when I realised that, for me, I'm just really good at my job and I don't have to love what I do. I don't actually have to love it. I just need to be a subject matter expert and be really good at it and be able to make as much money from it as possible. And those 3 things may seem quite simple, but for me, it's a wraparound over my career that makes what I do bearable for me. That is the truth, because sometimes it's not about being in love with your job. You don't have to be in love to be good at it. You just have to be good at it because you've carved out a niche, you understand the skill set, you've invested in that skill set, you've become a subject matter expert. And then that's where you kind of find peace, for me anyway, find peace in my career. And the things I love are more the things that I've created outside my career rather than my career. But I understand that my career had to play a massive role in my life because of a lot of stuff that I was going through and leaving home at 21 and not really having a direction, walking in the wilderness for so long, that actually work, career became my security blanket, and that is okay. I keep feeling like I'm jumping, but everyone just follow me here, because you know how we talk here, we get it down. But this is a safe space, so I feel like I can kind of go into certain things and then bring it back. So just before we found out I was pregnant, I decided to go private, and I had a conversation with one of my very good friends. She advised me of a place that I could go to and actually do a full MOT. We're talking about my vagina health, my ovaries, my fibroids, my egg reserve, the full whack. And it cost me about between £200 to £300, and it was the best money I've ever spent in my life, because they told me I had 46 egg follicles. 46. Bearing in mind when I went there, I was 37 years old. The average for my age is not 46. I tell you that much. They were shocked. They were absolutely shocked. They were able to identify the fibroids. They said there were 4 fibroids, but they weren't of a size that concerned them. And I remember in the appointment, the woman was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, what? She says, you're ovulating. She goes, you check your ovulation? I said, well, yeah, kind of, because I check like my periods and stuff, so I kind of know. And she says, well, it's really beautiful to see, you know. So Kay got tested, he had his sperm count tested, and everything was fine. We just hadn't been trying for kids, but I wanted to know what options were available, or where we stood with that, so that if we couldn't have kids, at least we know it and we just move like that. You understand? And that's fine. But then also I've seen Kay with his nephew, and that beauty in that relationship. So when people say, oh, I've always wanted to have kids, I don't understand that. I feel like when you're with the right person, you want to have their children. I don't understand how to do this whimsical fantasy of always wanting to have kids in isolation of the person you'd have kids with. I personally don't understand that. So for me, if I was going to have kids with anybody, it was going to be Kay. And then I was like, I think I want children. Literally. I was like, I think I want kids. So it literally took us a month. We tried a couple of times, and I fell pregnant. Now, part of me was really excited. Oh my God. My women bits are working. Despite what society and people are telling me that I'm knackered and past my expiry date, I've managed to conceive naturally. Like, I've done it. And then the reality of that conception hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me because I realised that my life is about to change beyond recognition, and I've got no control over how my life is going to change. I'm going to be someone's mum. How the hell am I going to be someone's mum when my own mum has failed me as an adult child? I mean, I think I had a really good childhood. I believe I did. You know, I definitely think that I look back on my childhood quite fondly. But bloody hell, you know, as an adult, shit. You know, can I really, do I have the ability to develop the mothering skills required to raise this child? And I had a breakdown. Because what I wasn't prepared to do is continue the trauma or the generational curse. And I'm just thinking, shit. So if you actually go onto my YouTube channel, for the whole of October, there is no content whatsoever. It will just continue on. September, then November, October. I was so unwell. So remember, there was a period in this podcast where I'd apologised, I'd come here and spoken. I was pregnant and I was so sick. I was begging to replace that sickness with COVID, because at least with COVID, I've had it before, I know it's going to come to an end, but this sickness was unbelievable. Bullshit about morning sickness, by the way. It's all day sickness. It doesn't just come in the morning, it can come in the middle of the night. I just want to dispel that myth, first of all. Anyway. And then started the emotional roller coaster. And the emotional roller coaster is, my whole life has been about my career. My career has been my child. I've managed to be in charge and control, develop it, learn, grow. And now I'm on 6 figures, basically commanding my own terms, working remotely, and I'm a contractor living my best life for the last 7 years now. How the hell am I going to balance that with being a mother? This was not in the extended vision board plan. It really wasn't in any of my vision boards, I'll tell you that much. Kay is a little bit more, I'd say Kay's not a little bit more, Kay's more relaxed than me. He's very like logical, methodical, hence why he works in finance, I think. And Kay's a bit older than me, so I think there's a level of maturity that he has that I am still developing, where he just takes more of a logical, pragmatic approach with when it comes to matters of the heart. So things like having a child. But I don't think I'd fully understood the magnitude of the door. I was literally, I'd opened, literally, if I'm honest. And I've had to struggle with developing that maternal connection. And I'm going to go on record and say to you, I never developed it until I saw the first scan. And the first scan is I had to go to the early pregnancy unit because I was having some bleeding. And I just saw this little heartbeat beating. It's just a fetus, isn't it? And I was like, this child is fighting to live. Let's be honest, the first 12 weeks, anything can happen. I mean, anything can happen through your pregnancy, but the first 12 weeks are probably the most sensitive, right? And this child is fighting to live and is relying on me to give it what it can so that it can live. And I thought, I'm just going to have to go with this. And I know that things will just fall into place where they're supposed to fall, because I've done the work and I continue to be a work in progress. And anything I don't know, anything I don't feel like I feel, anything I still need to grow, there is time. And periodically having to give myself grace has probably been the most liberating. Being able to be pregnant in private has been the most liberating, because it's also meant that I've been able to deal with certain things and go through things without the gaze of people, and actually being in the forefront of people's opinion. I don't give a shit what you think about motherhood. I don't give a shit what your views are about older parenting. I don't give a crap. I just wanted to go through this period of my life independent of opinion. And the thing is, everyone's going to always have an opinion, but pregnancy is the most vulnerable period, because you're literally growing a child and trying to figure out yourself, and you're becoming a mother every single day, and you're now having to be responsible for not only what you put in your body, but what you put in that now affects somebody who hasn't asked to be here. So I don't want to then overload that with of opinion. And people may think, oh, you know, they're being kind. Well, some people think it's coming from a good place. I'm not interested in it. I don't care about your recommendations. I'm just not interested. I've never been more uninterested in my life. So moving in silence has been for my peace. And what has been amazing as part of that is I've been surrounded by a circle of women who not only do I trust, that have been able to cover me with love. And I'm so scared to say the names because I feel like I'm going to miss someone. So let me start anyway. Jasmine, Nkechi, Vanessa, who I affectionately call Nessa, my best friend Lisa, Nancy. I really hope I don't forget anybody. Oh crap, I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Jesus Christ, my memory is just bad. Bimpe, who is, I just love her to bits. I love Bimpe so much. Those people are my close-knit circle of friends who come together because I'm the common denominator, right? They're not friends individually, but they're all friends and connected to me. And they have been my safe space. And I'm so grateful that I can trust that collective of women to be my safe space. And they have loved on me, they have cared for me, they have prayed for me, they have laughed with me, they have cried with me, and they have covered me. All these 9 months. And I know beyond. Now, in doing this episode, I do want to talk about a few things that I've had to put in place in terms of career-wise and things like that, because the direction of this podcast is going to expand. It's not going to change. Number one, this podcast has always been about aiding, supporting, guiding, advising, and teaching Black women how to navigate the world of work safely, and in turn highlight the path of our success. But now the other string to my bow is going to be motherhood, and balancing being a career woman, like I mean a 6-figure career woman, and motherhood as an older mother. Because by the time my child is born, I'm going to be 38. That is an older mother. And I am doing a no holds bars. I'm going to talk about absolutely everything, because the last 9 months that I've put out content, there's certain things I haven't put out, because obviously I haven't announced that I'm pregnant. So there's a lot of nuances now that are now attached to my career that I think as Black women, I need to share. So that, number one, when we're navigating with enhanced knowledge. If you so choose to also pursue motherhood as part of your life, basically, I want to go on record to say I didn't come into this always wanting to be a mother. I didn't come into this knowing I would be a mother. Now that I am, I feel like my focus is changing to incorporate this new life, and my career and how I see it has to change. But if you listen to what I said earlier on, it already started already. And it's already started because how I see my career is I'm good at what I do. I don't love what I do. I'm just really good at it. Because I think love is such a strong word. And I think how your career evolves also depends on how you then to start seeing your career. But being able to navigate and understanding all the themes and all the things I've been teaching has also led to where we are now. So for example, I have banged on about financial literacy. I've spoken about the nuances and pros and cons of being a perm and a contractor and vice versa. I've also spoken about the strategies that one should employ when navigating the world of work. And all the things in between that I've spoken about has come in as vital skills now that I'm pregnant. You're probably thinking, but how, Toya? Well, as a contractor, you guys know that I've held down for almost 3 years now 2 roles, and I changed, like when I ended the 2 contracts, then I went in straight into another contract and then picked up another one. So I've only known 2 contracts running at the same time for almost 2.5 years, 3 years now. And the last 9 months I've been pregnant, I've been holding down 2 jobs. Let's call it what it is. Whilst navigating the jungle that is the world of work, and still earning that 6 figures, maintaining my subject matter expert status, and still trying to maneuver the world of work, bearing in mind that as Black women we're already vulnerable in the world of work, but being Black women who are disproportionately treated, and we are disproportionately at a disadvantage financially, i.e. in comparison to, say, our white or Asian counterparts. And it means that we're therefore not able to access certain spaces because we're not even on that financial level. But I've been able to at least find a way to navigate and break through, but whilst being a subject matter expert, making sure that I'm securing those 6 figures. And it's not been easy. The stuff that I've shared over the last 9 months is the tip of the iceberg. I'm telling you right here, right now, it has been safe for me to not only be a Black woman whilst being a contractor and being able to remotely work, but also being a working, career-driven, pregnant Black woman. I've been able to do this without having to share with anyone I've worked with that I'm pregnant. So the organisations that I've been working with for the last 2 years, the last 9 months, none of them know I'm pregnant. Absolutely none of them. And, there was an episode that I did, Princess Cuts, about oversharing. Can you see how everything links? And I live by what I teach and what I speak about. I don't speak with the left and do different things on the right. I don't have two heads. I'm literally giving you all the blueprint. How you decide to use it is actually completely up to you, but I know how I'm using it, my learning lessons, how I'm taking on, you know, the experiences of understanding how to do certain things and being strategic. This is why I feel like I'm definitely benefiting from all those lessons. If you choose not to listen, then you have to learn the hard way, and then a lot of you then come back around and take on board, or at least consider the things I'm saying. So what I'm saying to you is, for 9 months, the 2 contracts I've worked at, they don't know I'm pregnant because I'm working remotely, you see. I put my camera on sometimes, and even if my camera's on, you see it from the shoulder up. All my medical antenatal appointments, I've just done it around work. I mean, if you're able to hold down 2 jobs, you're able to navigate and know how to, like, book your appointments or your antenatal appointments around work. Or you can, not just lunchtimes, like, sometimes I'll have, like, an antenatal appointment at 3 o'clock and I'll just take a late lunch. You know, I just have had to work it. And when you're good at what you do, and you're consistent, people don't really question you. You know, my appointments last sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours. So what do you want me to do? Do you know what I mean? And just, I've learned over the years anyway that I owe loyalty only to myself. I don't owe it to anybody else. I just owe it to myself. And when we talk about being strategic, this is what we're talking about. How can I better benefit from the fruits of my labour, literal labour, by using those strategies to my advantage? And everything I've taught, I'm using now. One of my contracts ended in end of February. It was supposed to end of January. They wanted to extend. You know, they did. They had to eat humble pie because they needed me. But I knew that sorry, I just need to put the, oh, sugar. Damn, sorry guys. Let's put the light on. I knew that I was going on maternity from April. So it worked for me, and I'm stacking the money. There's so many different aspects of this episode that I need to cover to give you a holistic insight over what has happened over the last 9 months, but really how the Toy Talks podcast and everything I've taught has been put into practice for this period of my life. Well, always has anyway, but this critical period of my life also. So I've started off by telling you know, that I've been able to move in silence and extend that to my career because I'm a remote worker. And I know it's also a benefit that a lot of people don't have because maybe you're hybrid. But I think when you lay the foundation, so I already laid the foundation from just before COVID, where I was working remote anyway, or working a few days a week, and then obviously we had lockdown, and then working remote just became a natural way of how we work now. So it's not an odd thing that you'll see a role and it says remote. I've just managed to maintain it, remote working status. And it's been amazing because, yes, you know, when I was ill in October, I was able to just be ill at home, not having to get public transport. I have so much respect for pregnant women who get on public transport dealing with morning sickness, as they call it, but I was diagnosed with HG. I can't remember the full term for HG. I'll look it up online and I'll share it here. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like, women, we are amazing, and I actually learned to appreciate more the beauty of our womanhood now that I'm pregnant and feeling all the aches and pains and the sickness. And I'm thinking, we've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, and we have been so mistreated. You know, when a pregnant woman gets on the train and you don't offer your seat, you're mistreating that woman. When a pregnant woman is there and you're looking at her and she looks like she's flourishing, but she's dying inside because she's so unwell. The fact that we don't show love towards that woman, we're mistreating her. And I thought it was bad enough having period pain. No. Having HG and getting on public transport, I just couldn't do it. I would have had to quit whatever role I personally could not have done it. I was only able to continue working because I was remote working, and the times when I was too ill to work, I could just lie in the bed for an hour. Literally, I had no energy. Do I then talk about trying to access medication so that I can actually get through a day, and having to literally threaten my doctor, if you don't give me this medication, I can't continue with this pregnancy because I can't continue with life. Life is literally slipping by me. I cannot function. That is the level that I've had to take things to, because medical professionals have been so negligent. And we can get into that as well, because I've got an ongoing complaint that has now opened so many doors for me to be able to access the healthcare that I am now getting, that I not only deserve, that I just think to myself, all it has been about money. And when you start knocking down the walls of what this money is, and you're able to get that access to medical healthcare that you're paying into the system for, it's actually beautiful. My midwife has been amazing. I've got an amazing midwife. I didn't start off with an amazing midwife. My first midwife was a pile of shit. I was connected to another hospital that was 30 minutes away from my house. God so kind, I had the good sense to change hospitals to a local hospital near me, it's 10 minutes from me, and therefore change the catchment area of my midwife, and it's been amazing. But even that is a testimony for another episode. Oh God, I don't even know where to start. Something that I really wanted to say is, during COVID, I podcasted a lot, and one question I always ask is, what did you learn from COVID? What did COVID teach you? What did you learn about lockdown? I learned about financial literacy because it's something that I spoke about. I understood how much money we actually spend to be able to live versus how much money we were able to save because of a lockdown. So that's why being remote was even more attractive to me. And even more so now, when they're trying to patch up the fact that we're going through some type of recession. The cost of living is astronomical and is at a rate that I have never seen before. And no matter what access you have to finances, you're still going to feel the pinch of the cost of living. And also as well, I feel like if I hadn't done the work of financial literacy and financial education, I don't think I would be in the financial position I am now, where I can actually take 2 or 3 years off if I wanted to, solely relying on my savings if I wanted to take that time off to just be on maternity leave. You see how if you don't lay the foundations, you cannot reap the benefits. If you don't have financial literacy and you're hoping to depend on the state and statutory maternity, I'm telling you now, you're going to be on the breadline, because there's no money in statutory maternity. Absolutely not. It's shit. The money is shit. But again, I take it back to contracting, and I know that not a lot of people are in the profession where you can contract, but you'll be surprised the amount of professions where you can be a contractor. And I've always said the financial benefits of being a contractor versus being a perm, you can't compare it. Whether you're inside or outside IR35, you will always, for me, I have always been able to earn more money than what I do if I'm a perm. So again, the backdrop of what you learn, or what we learned during COVID, being a contractor for the last 6 years, really benefiting from contracting during lockdown, and having that financial literacy, going through that journey of financial nakedness. And now I'm in this position whereby everything that I have learned has been tested through this period. Because as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I was like, right, I need another contract. That's the first that came onto my mind, because now it's like, it's going to be the financial aspect that's really going to worry me, because finances worry me, because I've always come from a space of survival. That's where I've always come from. And remember, when you don't have financial literacy, you become financially abusive. So I've now been delivered from that financial abuse. I've been financially naked. I have financial literacy now, and I understand how to save. And literally and bearing in mind, we were paying for a wedding as well, a trad wedding. And a year before, remember, we had a civil wedding, albeit 12 people because of lockdown, but we were still shelling out money for the trad wedding. And that money we shelled out for the trad wedding could have gone to the pregnancy fund, but obviously we didn't know at that point until 4 days before the wedding. Do you know what I mean? So we were still having financial commitments, but we were still smart about our financial commitments. So for example, we only had 60 people at our wedding. And this is even before I found out I was pregnant. But as a result of lockdown and COVID, you should have started to think about the people that were really important. So where some people will have 300-400 people at their wedding, and then for my civil wedding, I could only have 12. Do you know how much money we saved? Again, financial literacy, financial naked understanding. And now we have a trad wedding. Okay, we're only going to have 60 people. You know, we're going to pay for this, that, and the other. Do I want a wedding cake that costs flipping £2,000? No, because I'm not a wedding cake person. I don't want a bloody wedding cake. I'll have a donut wall, because that's me. I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses. Do you understand? Saved money. The venue was a blessing, because we'd booked the venue when they were still trying to recover from lockdown. So we've got a very good quote on the venue. I think at the end it cost us between £4,500 to £5,000 for the venue. Average venue can range anything from 15,000 right up to 25,000, if not more. And I say that because it depends obviously where, but it could be far more than that. But again, learning from COVID and lockdown and having a respect for money meant that we wasn't going to go crazy. You know, do I really need a photographer for the whole day of my wedding? No, I don't. Because we're not only in the social media era, but the first half of this ceremony we had a photographer, but everything else is going to be pictures people take and videos. We're living in a social media era. I'm not trying to impress people. I don't give a shit about impressing people. What I cared about is vibes and having a good time. And everyone at my wedding did. My outfits, for example. Am I a wedding dress girl? White wedding dress girl? No, I'm not. When my dad died, that fantasy died with my dad. So for me, it was like, okay, I can get material. I worked with Simply As Should Be. Got my wedding material. You know, there were certain things that I definitely think financially, if I didn't have the literacy, I wouldn't have been able to have a wedding that didn't cost me having to then take a loan out. And then finding out that we were pregnant, you know, and do you understand? Like, things happen one after the other. So as soon as I knew, right, I'm pregnant, you know, I then looked for another contract. So I had 2 contracts, and I said to myself, right, baby's due end of April. I can work right up until that. And all I'm going to do is stack my money. And I'm just so grateful to God that I really took heed of all the lessons I've learned in terms of finances. And I was able to healthily save. Now, I could have just had one contract and I would have been fine. Yeah? But the ancestors have been so kind, and I'm just so grateful for them, because I would be nothing without my ancestors. It wasn't just having 2 contracts. I had one contract inside IR35 and one role outside of IR35. Now, I'd like to think that upon listening to this, the contracting masterclass is already up, so that you can understand, number one, how to contract, but also what inside and outside IR35 means, the benefits, the pros and the cons. Now, for me, the pro of being inside IR35 is I'm entitled to statutory maternity, which the first 6 weeks is 90%. Now, if you're on a good rate, day rate, 90% is actually very, very good. And then on the other side of it, my outside role is all the money I've stacked. And yeah, I have to pay tax on it, but I've stacked a heck of a lot of money. So if I want to take 2-3 years off, I can do that. So I have two sources of income now. And we're not talking about my other business that actually makes me money too. I think what they call that, passive income. I wouldn't have been able to even think that far ahead if I didn't have the financial literacy to support that. Has it been easy holding down 2 jobs? Hell no. Being pregnant, being ill, it hasn't. It's really tested my ability as a subject matter expert, and tested my ability as a person who is not only really focused, but now having to understand the magnitude that I'm bringing a life into this world that I am now financially, emotionally and psychologically responsible for. What people don't like to talk about is the financial aspect of pregnancy. People don't really talk about it a lot. We're going to talk about it on the podcast, because you can't rely on the government anymore. Yeah? You can't. Don't mind what the Tories have recently introduced in terms of daycare and 30 hours free or whatever. If both of you are earning more than 100k a year, you're probably not even entitled to that extra time or free time for nursery. Probably not even entitled to that. That's the first thing. The second thing is you can't rely on the government for nothing, because I was watching, Kay sent me something, but I'd seen it already on TikTok, where a girl had basically said, society is not built to encourage, support women having children. In fact, everything society has done is it will shame you for not having children, but make it so difficult for you to have them and be financially in a position to look after them. Time is escaping you, everything is expensive, everything costs money, and you can't compromise giving your child what you can because you don't have the money. So then you're in this perpetual cycle all the time. Society does not encourage or support, or it doesn't allow for women to really just have children and be able to give them financially what they need without taking from one hand and giving to the next. Do you understand? Like it's financially it's not basically achievable to have everything or to be able, and I get it. I actually understand it, because when I found out nursery fees is more than the cost of my mortgage, my child's nursery fees is more than the cost of my mortgage, I shuddered. Because I was like, that money that we're spending on that could go to savings, but we can't, because we're both working career people and understand to maintain the lifestyle that we currently live, we both have to work. So my child will have to go into nursery, but you can't just put them in any nursery, you've got to put them in a good nursery. So moving outside London was also very strategic for us, because we didn't know if we wanted to have kids, but what we did know is certain things are cheaper outside of London. Can you understand now? Like, you have to have a strategy, not just with your career, but generally just with life. Because if you think that you could just do shit, well, you're going to have to pay the price for it. And as an older woman, I definitely feel like I left things till later for a reason. For a reason. You know, I would not be where I am in my career now. In my 20s, I just wouldn't. I am here now. Do you understand? And yeah, you know, women are having children later. But we're having children later because we're having to employ a lot more time into our careers, number one. We understand the disparity in terms of pay in comparison to men, white men, Asian men. Black women are not where we're not where we're supposed to be. So we are now having to do even more to at least be able to get our foot in the door. Do you understand? So all that stuff in mind, is it any wonder we're having children later? In fact, for me personally, I support it, because I'm not going to bring a child into this world and be poor. Because if I'm going to be poor, my child is going to suffer. How can I live with myself? I personally can't do that. I can't. Equally as well, I'm not going to compromise my lifestyle. I'm really not. I'm not doing it. I like designer bags. I like going on holiday. I like being able to book trips to New York. I like being able to go to Dubai. I like those things. So if I'm unwilling to compromise those things, unfortunately, then I'm going to have to continue at the rate I am in terms of my career and just reprioritize things. But can you see, if you don't have a strategy, and I didn't say plan, I said strategy. Plan and strategy are two different things. They're so far apart. I had to have a strategy. Right, I'm pregnant now. So what is my strategy? I had to rely on everything, all the foundations I've already sowed. Yeah, I don't do whims. I don't do whoops. I'm not that person. And that's why I think my worry was always, at the beginning, was always financial. Always. Because I've only had to care of myself. I have investments and stuff, but the freedom to just go out and earn has been there. You know, now, you know, I'm not a morning person, for example. I love sleep. Well, that's about to flipping change, isn't it? You know, I'm going to have to figure out and go on the journey with all of you, navigating and being a mother. And being I personally don't know. It's different when your child's in your stomach. It's different. When you see literally your whole heart separated from you walking or crawling, you're realising shit. things have changed. And something I've promised myself is I'm not going to go and tell employers I've had a child or I'm a mum. No, I'm not doing that. It's funny because Kay and I had a conversation which has basically encouraged me now to record, so that you guys can listen to this post pregnancy. And we were talking and I says, Kay, it's been safe being a black woman, being pregnant, working remote, number one. But I'm under no illusion about how things are going to be going forward. He says, what do you mean? I says, pregnant women in the workplace, especially when I've witnessed it, have always been seen as a liability. Let's be real. Why am I not sharing that I am pregnant? I mean, it's not a secret. You know what I mean? In terms of work, it's not a secret, is it? Like, I should be able to be pregnant because I then have appointments. But I understand that I'm automatically seen as a liability. If I'm late for a meeting, oh, right, it's because she's pregnant. Oh, she's untrustworthy. Oh, God, she doesn't keep to time. And then it snowballs into something. Because I know already, just being a black woman, they already got issue. Do you understand? They've really got issue. They take issue, have issue. You know, I that in itself, I've understood how to navigate. Then you compound it with pregnancy and motherhood. And remember, some people you're talking to, maybe they're striving for that and they haven't achieved it. And suddenly you are it. And that may be something that antagonizes them and the way they deal with you. I've seen a lot in the world of work. I've seen a lot. I want to give you an example of something. So I posted on my TikTok about basically moving at work and, you know, how to package yourself. And I was talking about, I can't even remember what I was talking about. I was talking about something, but it was to do with not oversharing at work effectively. And I had so many comments. And one of the comments I had was from this black woman. And she says, you know, I agree with you, Toya, about this oversharing because I overshared with my employer that I was pregnant. And the amount of pressure that employer put on me, my boss put on me, I miscarried. My whole heart froze. My body was cold. And I was like, she's literally speaking about my fear as to the reason why I've maintained silence about my pregnancy. Now, don't get it twisted. If you're a perm member of staff, I understand why you have to share it because obviously you need to trigger statutory maternity. That, you know, when you're a perm, there's other layers to pregnancy. But as a contractor, we don't have that. So this is why I'm trying to get people to start thinking about the benefits of contracting if you are in a field where you can do that. Bank staff who are nurses, they're contractors, they're bank staff. That's what they're called, bank staff, isn't it? Contractors. I think there's probably only 10% of roles the way you can't contract. Most roles you can be a contractor. You can. It's about whether you're willing to take a leap of faith and go out there and find that information. That's the truth. And I've given so much content on this podcast. If you can't use it to advance yourself, there's nothing I can do because I've given you the blueprint. When that woman shared that, it reinforced the reason why I have no desire. I had nothing to tell anyone. What am I doing? I'm working remotely. You can't see my stomach. You know, I'm holding down 2 jobs already. So what are we really saying here? And I'm a subject matter expert. Tick, 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 tick. So do you understand? And it makes me so sad because as black women, we're vulnerable already in the world of work. But to be vulnerable, made to feel even more vulnerable because you're pregnant is a lot. You know, I would never ever forgive myself if I told an employer I was pregnant as a contractor, knowing I didn't have to. Then something happened. I would probably lose my mind because I would always associate that miscarriage to that employer who caused it because of stress. They don't like us. I'm sorry. Like, some of you need to get your head out your asses and understand they do not like us. Why you continue to overshare with people who do not like you, I'm never going to know. Employers need to know basis. That you should only tell them on a need to know. Listen, when I bought my house, they don't know. They don't need to know. Listen, one of my contracts that ended in March, out of the blue, the line manager, we were having a meeting, just out of the blue, she just decided to tell me she doesn't own her house. So I was thinking, why are you telling me that? I don't give a shit. But she was trying to open the door to find out if I owned my house. So she just don't own a house. I was like, oh, okay. I said, listen, home ownership isn't for everyone. Completely understand it, especially with the cost of living nowadays. Boom. Full stop. Cut it dead. She wanted to know if I owned my home. The person that approves my timesheet and my invoices, she knows how much I get paid daily. Why am I going to tell her I own my own home for? So that she feels that, oh, who does Toy think she is? I'm going to show her who's boss. God forbid. I'm not. I didn't say anything. She didn't even know I was married. Do you know when she knew I was married? I can't remember. I think it was like last 2 weeks of the contract. And I can't remember what she said. And she said, Toy, do you think you'd ever get married? And I was like, oh, I'm married already. She said, pardon? I said, yeah, I've been married for a year. She goes, wow, I didn't know that about you. She goes, I thought you were living at home with your parents. In my head, I was thinking, she thinks I'm a baby. She don't even know who I am, how old I am. Literally, I think she thought I was in my early 20s. And that's fine, black don't crack. But that goes to show you, these people will invent stories or create stories of their own free will. Why am I going to give them the actual reality of what my life is? Because for you, you're struggling or whatever situation you're in. For them, you're living in paradise. And if there was one thing I've learned about non-black people, specifically white people who dominate my industry, is they don't want to see us. But if they do, they want to see us struggling. So now I can't come and tell you, I live outside London, my house costs £500,000, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I drive my dream car, which may not be amazing to you guys, but I'm driving my SUV and me, it's not possible. The less you know, the better, because me sharing that with you, to what end? What am I getting out of it? Or you're a recruiter now, will ask you a question, you're oversharing. Yeah, I've got interview here, I've signed up to XY agency. Why are you telling them that? Why? It's like burying gold and then telling people where your gold is. Does that make sense? Everyone wants to be a pirate. I'm not understanding. Again, until as black women we get to a point of actually being comfortable with ourselves, you're always going to make the mistake of feeling like you need to be accepted, meaning that you're always going to overshare. I'm not telling you to be secretive. I'm just telling you to move with strategy, which means oversharing is not even an option. And I'm also talking about some of your colleagues that you think are your best friend. You don't know if your colleague's your friend until you leave. Yeah? You can have chit chat, whatever. But when you start to divulge personal information, you better just start thinking of how that person can use that personal information against you. You can't do that with me. I move in silence. You won't even know. You won't even see me coming. It's impossible. It is impossible unless I want you to know. You're not going to know. After all, this contract I have now, the second one, as I'm recording this, I'm 7.5 months pregnant. If you were to tell them that, then they will fall down. They will fall down. I don't know what they think of me, but what they do know is I deliver. That's all you need to know, because anything else is just more information than you can handle. Why would I tell you that? Oh, Toy, we need you to come in. I said, no. I'm a remote worker. There's been times when they've tried to get me to come in and I was like, I'm not doing it. Because then they'll see me pregnant and then I'm going to have to explain why I'm pregnant, or, oh, I'm not into that. Do you understand? I patterned myself enough that I don't need to do that. And I'll always find a way to get out of it. I mean, I already negotiated it into my contract. I'm a remote worker. So anything I do over and above that is a bonus and it's a choice. Listen, I know of somebody who is working for an organisation, doesn't have remote in their contract, whatever. It's been accepted that they're a remote worker by conduct, right? And now they're trying to get that person to go into the office. The person said they're not coming in. And now has taken out a formal grievance against their employer for victimisation and bullying, for forcing them to come into the office when they took the role. After all, it's been remote. What's changed? People are holding on to that remote role tight. And I understand it, support it, and I agree with it. You don't know what people are doing. You don't know if people are pregnant. You don't know anything. And people want to be able to work safely. So sometimes remote is what it is. One girl reached out to me today because I went to do an oil change in my car. And she shared with me that she bought a dream car. I think it was a Audi A4. She said, Toya, this is the remote contractor life. I said, yes, my dear. And she goes, I don't get to use my car much. I said, my dear, but you're not spending on public transport. If all you have to do is save that public transport and you're not doing that much mileage, What's your problem? Every time you look outside, you know that's your car. And in fact, if you want to go to the shop that you can walk, you can drive, you can do what you like. Like, work-life balance is about balance. Organizations are saying, oh, 3 days a week is remote. No, that's not remote, darling. That's bullshit, is what it is to me. I hope you're understanding where I'm going with this, what I'm saying here. What I'm sharing with you is my blueprint of how I have been pregnant for 9 months and been able to just be at peace with my pregnancy, from a financial aspect, from a career aspect, and I've learned so much along the way that I'm going to teach you. But if you are not going to take in what I'm saying, you're not going to benefit from the content. But what we're not going to do is, and you know, me and Kay were having this conversation, COVID was a reset for everybody. Every single person had a COVID reset. What you took out of that reset is a matter for you. The question I have always asked you is, what did you learn from COVID? What did you learn? And when I say what did you learn, it's what did you learn that you're putting into practice now. Some of you are not putting those things into practice because you didn't open your mind to learn what you needed to learn. You were just existing through COVID. And don't get it twisted, a lot of us had our mental health compromised. It wasn't healthy to be constantly feeling like, you know, you can't go outside, you know, all them things. It was tough. It was tough, but you had time to spend with yourself. Ask yourself questions. We were all working from home. Yeah? What was that like for you? What did you learn about your career and how? Listen, some people realise actually, see that podcast Toy did about pivoting and changing career? This is my time to change. Maybe that's what you learn. But not putting anything you into practice. I personally don't understand that. I don't. I really don't. I definitely feel as though, you know, there's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of things that I want to share here, especially, you know, the last 9 months. And then we're going to also talk about how I'm going to be in maternity, because I'll be still recording while I'm on maternity by the grace of God, if my child allows me. But there's a lot of stuff to talk about, especially as black women navigating our careers. And if you have another bow of motherhood, or you're looking to enter the chapter of motherhood, there's a lot of things that you have to consider that I didn't even know. It's now I'm here. I'm like, geez, do my sisters know? This is what this podcast is about. Sharing, safe space, advancing. And the work doesn't stop for me. Because remember, I've held down 2 jobs. I've got 1 contract left. I've got 2 weeks to go before I can go on maternity. I have been saving. I have another business that creates revenue for me. Like, the work doesn't stop. And I still create content. I'm still getting asked to do public speaking events. I still get approached businesses to review certain things. I do have, you know, businesses that ask me, or I have services now whereby if somebody's been made redundant, I can read their documents and kind of give them that advice through my other business. I've got a lot of shit going on. Having a child is not going to keep me still. I'm sorry, it can't. Not when I see them nursery fees there. The child's going, wah, wah. Someone needs to buy that milk and change them nappies. You understand? And don't get it twisted. I see the privilege in the fact that I am married. But I've told you guys before, marriage is what? A business. Love and business, darling. So if you don't understand the business aspect about marriage, you haven't even started with your financial literacy. But my financial literacy had to start from being single. Do you understand? And then it started by expanding and understanding what finances actually meant. And then when I met Kay, it became the bonus. But I have to be able, and for me, financially being able to stand on my own 2 feet. If anything was to happen tomorrow, I've got me and my child. That's how I look at it. Yeah? And Kay is a bonus. That money, that finances, that education, that experience is a bonus. That's how I have to look at it. I do not promote dependency. I don't promote that here. I promote independence. Independence. So when I'm talking to black women, I'm talking to us from an independent perspective. I'm not counting Kay's finances in this. I'm not. I'm talking I can take 2 to 3 years off on maternity independently, solely on my own funds. That's what I'm saying to you. And we need to get to that space. Because when you get to that space, I definitely feel that whilst you are in a partnership, there's not a burden there. And for me, don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily think relying on a person is a burden, but I don't have the ability to be solely dependent on someone, because when I think of what could happen if the rug is pulled under me, it's just catastrophic. I don't operate from that. I've come from poverty, so I have to operate from a space of hyper independence, and now independence as opposed to hyper. Do you understand? Right. I'm sure there'll be a part 2, because I've written a load of stuff down here that I want to talk to you all about. So many things I've learned, but it was important that I came on the podcast and just kind of explain what's kind of been happening. You guys have listened, you guys have learned, you guys have taught me, you guys have supported, you guys have created this safe space. And there is another string to my bow, which is motherhood. And I'm not the person that's going to do mummy content. Sorry, I'm not that person. I'm going to do career content with now the added bow of being a mother and what those nuances mean as a career woman. That's what we're going to deal with here. So that's why I said the direction of the podcast doesn't change, it expands. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I know a lot of you are going to ask me questions, and if you want to ask questions, you've got a work-related dilemma, email hello@toytalks.com. I am hoping to upload twice a month. That's the aim. If I can do more, definitely I will. But I'm also going to have to acclimatise to my new life of motherhood, hence why I'm on maternity. I've decided to take... Oh, God. Actually, we could talk about that. How long I'm going to take off and stuff. We could talk about that in another podcast. Because I want to give you the rationale and stuff. We need to talk. Because I'm not looking to use all of my savings throughout my maternity. I need to go back into work with a healthy savings as well. Because equally as well, I'm still monitoring the commercial space and it changes all the time. So I don't want to feel like I have to take a job because I'm running out of money. I don't. And this is why, for me, it was so important to save a certain amount. And it was an amount that I felt that would still be comfortable for me if I wasn't ready to go back, or if I wanted to take my time to go back and just find the right role. All those things. Being an older mother is not a joke. I'm 38 years old. Why do I keep telling people I'm 37? I'm 38 and I'm going to be 39 in October. And how the pregnancy has affected me as an older mum in terms of my physical is a lot. I don't have that physical strength I did in my 20s. But, I mean, at the same time, I'm sitting in waiting rooms and I look like the healthiest one there. So let's really, and bearing in mind as well, I have a total now of 6 fibroids. The additional fibroids that they found during this pregnancy, which, again, let's get into it. Let's have that conversation. How, understanding how to navigate work has also enabled me to navigate the healthcare system. Let's talk about it. As Black women, we understand the disadvantages that we suffer from the healthcare system. Like, what advice can I give you about how to get around certain things? I've learned this through my pregnancy, but I'm going to leave it there because I don't know how long this episode is. But I hope you guys have learned. I hope that this resonates with you. I hope that this lays the foundation for all the future episodes that will now be coming. I want to thank each and every one of you for always listening, supporting and holding this podcast down, because you guys have been amazing. Thank you for being the mouthpieces of this podcast. I know you share. I know that there are conversations and topics covered in your group chats as a result of this podcast. And I'm just so grateful to have this podcast as not only a safe space, but an outlet to share, because for me, it's always been about how can I share what I've learned so that my sisters can be better than me. I want you to be better than me. I don't want everyone to be at the same level. I don't see progress in that. Be better than me. I want all of us to be able to learn and grow, and all of us can get to the bag. All of us, there's enough money to go around. It's how we get to the bag that is important. Right, I'm going to leave it there. If you want to follow me on social media, my personal Instagram page, which I'm sure will be very active now. It's active already, but even more so because I've recorded and captured a lot of content that will now be able to be uploaded now that I can share that I'm pregnant. So on Instagram, my personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks podcast Instagram page is Toya_Talks. If you want to follow me on TikTok, where I am definitely very active, well, the handle is Toya Washington. Snapchat, it's Toya Washington, all one word. And again, the masterclasses, they're there to support the podcast episodes. It is up to you if you are willing to invest in yourself, to access the additional information that will support you as you navigate the world of work and have the strategies in place to be able to navigate effectively. The website is toytalks.com, and that houses the catalogue of masterclasses, and hopefully there should be the contractor masterclass, and I'm hoping the maternity masterclass would be up as well. If it's not up, then I know that it's already recorded, edited, and waiting to go up. Either way, the information is all there. The interview masterclass, CV, passing your probation, resignation masterclass, redundancy masterclass, the mother and daughter masterclass, they're all there for you. Choose yourself. Choose to improve your work life, and choose to create strategies that will further increase your ability to not only earn more money, but strategically grow up the career ladder. I'm going to leave it there. My name is Toya Washington. Entrepreneur, businesswoman, content creator, podcaster, sister, friend, best friend, cousin, daughter, auntie, and now mother. Damn! I've been real busy. Anyway, until next time, my name is Toy Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.